Hey Rocket Boom, my name is John Paul Adams. I am the music teacher here at John McIntyre Elementary in Zanesville, Ohio. Recently we started doing a project on doing personal vlogs so that the kids can get a little bit of work using some new interactive media. After we did the vlogs, I kind of surprised the kids by talking to them about copyright and fair use in the United States, because I feel as I'm teaching these kids, they really need to be digitally literate as well as musically and educationally literate in other things. So I saw Molly's broadcast the other day on copyright and thought this would be a great way for me to introduce my students to fair use in the copyright law. So I wanted to show you how I used that in my lesson the other day and how the kids have been working on their vlogs otherwise. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. You might have done something illegal.
What?
When we were doing our vlogs, there is something I did not tell you guys when you were choosing your selections for what we were working on. What I told you guys to do for the project was to shoot a video with your personal information, which is okay, and then you were to put in special effects and some sort of sound effect or music in the background. Now, some of you have probably figured out what I'm about to say, but some of the music that we had for you guys to choose from was copyright. Now, how many of you, just as kind of a preface, how many of you guys have heard of a company called Napster?
I know.
Okay. How many of you have heard of FrostWire or LimeWire before? Okay. So, those of you who know what any of these programs are, basically what they are is they are programs set up so that people can share music between different users who have these programs downloaded. However, people don't have to pay money to share this music. It's basically if one person has a copy of this music, anybody else can share it between themselves illegally. And using copyrighted materials in videos is sometimes considered illegal, not all the time. What we're going to do today is we're going to discuss copyright law and a little bit about how copyright affects what you can and can't do on the internet as far as creating these personal vlogs that we're working on. At the end of the day, we're going to try to come to a class consensus on A, what are the pros and cons of the copyright law as it exists in the United States right now, and B, is what we did as a class illegal as far as creating our vlogs. Because if we decide that what we did is illegal, then we're going to have to do some work to fix our vlogs to make it so that they aren't illegal and we can finally upload them to the class YouTube page. Okay? Jaya, question before we get going.
So can we go to jail?
Well, we're going to talk about that. Most likely, for the copyright laws, you're probably not going to jail for it. You are probably, though, going to get a pretty heavy multi-$1,000 fine for it, however. Exactly. So, this is why we're going to discuss this. Now, each of you, when you came in, you can borrow this from me, Austin, got a paper called Copyright. I want you guys to make sure you're at the side that says copyright, and at the top it says by Rocket Boom, original posting April 25th, 2011. We're going to discuss today and decide if what we did was illegal or not. Now, we're going to watch a news report by an internet blog called Rocket Boom. They did a report about a month ago on copyright law and how it affects artists today who are creating different types of music, and how it affects different people today who work with different types of media. Now, the thing is, the reporter on this talks pretty quickly. Her name is Molly, and she talks really, really fast. She fits about 15 minutes of material into a 5-minute video. So, what I want you guys to do, that's why you guys have these papers. These papers are a transcript of what she talks about in there, paragraph by paragraph. Now, if you'll notice, it is two-sided, so halfway through this, you are going to need to turn over to the second page. My suggestion, follow along, because she's going to throw a lot of material at you guys about copyright law that is going to help you guys when we get into the group discussion later about how copyright.
Pop icon and meme scientist Weird Al Yankovic was recently temporarily barred from releasing his latest single, Perform This Way, a parody of Lady Gaga's Born This Way. Even though Yankovic is technically allowed to release its parodies regardless of the original artist's consent under the fair use doctrine, the gentlemanly Yankovic still prefers to obtain permission. And after a little bit of public embarrassment, Miss Gaga ultimately decided to give Yankovic her blessing. But let's say Gaga decided to be a drag and not let Yankovic release his song. Could he have really released it anyway under fair use? What exactly is fair use, and where did it come from?
So, there's our first point in what could be our penalty to allowing to use the music that we have in our blogs as they are. There's something called the fair use doctrine that Molly's going to be explaining to you guys today. Basically, what we have to decide is what we did covered under fair use. So, listen to the rest of the video. This is the only extra stop that I do. And at the end, we'll have a discussion about fair use and copyright. Here we go.
While artists have been remixing the artwork of others for some time, it wasn't until the 1976 Copyright Act that it became legal in the US. This act introduced fair use, which in a nutshell, states that a reproduction or transformation of a copyrighted work may not violate copyright if it is enriching to the general public, uses the copyrighted source sparingly, and does not cannibalize the profits of the original work.
Okay, so, just got talking about fair use. What are the three things in fair use that basically, other than the Mona Lisa eating honey, what are the three things that are covered under fair use that make it legal for someone to use a copyrighted piece of material? Michael.
Adding commentary to it.
Okay, adding commentary to it. What else? There's a definition in there for you to use if you're following along with your paper. Michael Myers, you know that was a good answer. You need to be up with us. Yes.
Word by not being
Okay, so if it's enriching to the general public, what else? Okay, so what are we talking about if we cannibalize profits?
Sell it.
Okay, basically, if we're selling this as our product, so if we sell this as our product, that does take away the profit that the artist could have from their work. Let's keep watching.
Meanwhile, in the boogie down Bronx, with only 2 turntables and a microphone, hip-hop music was born. In this new style of music, DJs would play a section of music featuring an instrumental groove, or a breakbeat, or a break. To form the backbone of hip-hop track, here should be excused. The conduct of the defendants herein, however, violates not only the 7th commandment, but also the copyright laws of this country. Well,
Okay, for those of you following along, we're now on the back of the first page. We're on the back now. Okay, so what really brought about a lot of the arguments and discussion about copyright law as far as we talk about it in the modern sense of thinking about it? What did Molly just get done talking about? Yes. Okay, so she's talking about not stealing, but who are we talking about not stealing things?
People. U.S. citizens.
Specifically, what type of people? What type of music was Molly just talking about? What type of music would not exist were it not for sampling or using other pieces of music? Okay, rap and hip-hop music. That's where we get a lot of this discussion about modern copyright law. We're on the back of the page. Here we go.
few legal experts believe Duffy's decision was wrong. It's largely considered that his own prejudice and ignorance of hip-hop culture has emir after the RIAA successfully extended the copyright. The public at large began to successfully ignore copyright. As we're all well aware, the past decade has not been good for the music industry, or the 7th commandment. It has, however, been a banner decade for remix culture. From sampling to mashups to girl talk, the last decade of music has been a celebration of the last century of music. While remixes may be becoming progressively less legally acceptable, they certainly are becoming progressively more artistically acceptable. Who can say how this disconnect between raw and culture will pan out in the end? But for now, our advice to you is this. If you're going to break the law, don't get caught.
Well then, we are doing that. I want to get caught.
Okay. So, minus Molly's comment right there at the end, which I'm going to let you guys think about that one. I will tell you right now, Molly and I differ a little bit there on that opinion. By the way, Eric.